Okay, I think I need to back up a bit. I think I went to a camp with my friend, my particularly religious friend, before I was in high school. And this particular camp that I went to, I remember now. My friend went on about it for a long time. He'd been there before to this camp, him and his brother. And it was set on this edge of kind of like a riverbank, and it was sort of up on a hill, and there was a water slide that went into the river, and there was boats that used to take you around. It was all different activities for kids. So yeah, this was this camp. I remember this camp now. I mean, I think I've probably been to 3 different religious camps. The first one was with my friend. That was before I was in high school. The second one was the first year, and the third one was the big one, which I'll get to that in a second. Yeah, this first camp that I went to, I remember I had a great time. They had a lot of great stuff there. We all had a great time. They even had like a room with arcade type games, you know, where you could play like just all arcade games for free. You know, they had pinball machines, and my favorite one was this like little Chinook helicopter that used to spin around on a stick, and you used to have to try to land it on certain spots on the board. Yeah, so that was a really fun camp. But once again, every night, it always seems to be at night that they get you in these camps. You know, when you're more susceptible maybe to fear. It's kind of like, you know, telling you a nice bedtime story before you go to bed. You're going to burn in hell, kids, if you don't do this. Good night, sleep well. Yeah, but I remember at this camp, I remember the camp, what do you call them, like the young guys that are supervisors. You know, they're not in charge, but they're in charge of small groups, and they take care of small groups and different activities. And each of those guys had to get up and make a little speech. And there was one of the girls, she was like a really good looking girl. I remember even at that age we were all sort of interested in her. And one of the other camp supervisors, he was a young guy, older than us obviously, he was a young adult. But he always told us how much he liked this particular girl. I remember the night that she got up and made her little presentation. She talked about hell. She got up and said, can anyone tell me what these are or something? And she had the 10 Commandments, I think, up on a board. And, you know, all these Christian kids like 10 Commandments. It's like, very good. And can anyone tell me what happens if you don't follow these 10 Commandments? And some kid shot his hand straight up and said, you go to hell. I didn't hear him. I heard her say, yes, that's right, you go to hell. Yeah, and so that was I remember that was kind of like a clanger, because I remember thinking, until that stage, I remember kind of thinking that possibly the ideas my mother had about Christianity were more widespread than I realized. But then I realized that I was sitting amongst kids that took that for granted, that if you didn't follow the 10 Commandments, you'd go to hell. Because I remember kind of looking around and thinking, isn't anyone going to object to that? Like, really? You go to hell if you don't follow these commandments? And I remember being amazed at how matter of fact all of these kids at the camp took this particular presentation. I guess that really, now I think about it, was the first time that hell, the idea of hell, had ever really struck me as being something that was a possibility, you know, because I mean, if you've got people around you that believe in something, that's, you know, you tend to just go along with it. But yeah, I kind of resisted that, and I thought, I don't like this. I don't like this idea of You know, I don't take it for granted that people go to hell if they don't follow the commandments. Not that I was planning on not following commandments. I just didn't like this idea of hell. It didn't seem like something my God would do to anyone. It's just unbelievable that this wonderful being that I had a relationship until then would even think about doing that. It's just, and it's absurd even to this day to me, as it is to a lot of people that wrestle with the Bible. You know, coming to terms with you know, a God that's supposed to be the God of love, turning his back on people and allowing them to be burnt for eternity just for not believing in, not just for not believing that he did send his son. That's really what it comes down to. But yeah, as a child, I, you know, obviously I didn't say anything at the time, but internally I was quite outraged that anyone would say this, and I was even more shocked that the kids around me had nothing to say about it. Because I think, I'm pretty sure I used to have these conversations with my friend, the guy that I followed to that Christian school, or the guy who invited me along to this particular camp. I used to have these arguments with him. I used to argue about hell and say, no, there's no such thing as hell. That's ridiculous. And I remember kind of him having a sort of, you know, ha ha, I told you so type attitude at this camp. I thought, this can't be right. Everyone mustn't be believing this business of hell. This is crazy. And so there was one guy, like a tall kind of guy, I remember. And yeah, I think we went, like, we were going to the toilet. I was going to the toilet. He was going to the toilet at the same time. I finished in the little cubicle and I was about to leave. But just before I left, I said, hey, such and such. I can't remember what his name was. He was a big kind of guy, little bit fat. He was in the toilet doing his business in there, and I called out to him and said, hey you, do you believe in hell? And the guy said, no, I don't believe in that. And I thought, good, I'm not alone. Someone else, you know, sees things the way that I do and believes in the nice God that I believe in. And then later on, I remember being in the room and saying to my friend, his name's Steve, by the way, my friend. I might as well say that. I don't think Steve's going to be watching this video. Steve is the one that was my best friend at school, the guy who I followed to the Christian school. Yeah, so I said to Steve, I don't think... I said to Steve, look, I found someone who also doesn't believe in hell. And he said, who? And he said, such and such. I didn't know what his name was. I can't remember what that guy's name was. And so we went and asked him, because I remember us being in the room. Like, we had a dormitory room with maybe 6 people in there, including one of the supervisors, who was the young guy who liked that girl who went on about hell. He was in there too. We all slept in that room. There were like 6 bunks, maybe 8 bunks. I can't remember. But yeah, I was arguing with my friend Steve about this and said, look, this guy, he doesn't believe in hell either. And so we went and found him, and I said, do you believe in hell? And the guy said, yeah, I believe in hell. And Steve said, see, I told you, to me. And I said, but you said in the bathroom you don't believe in hell. And the guy said, oh, I thought you said E.T. E.T. the extraterrestrial. That's what he thought I said. At least that's what he said he thought I said. So yeah, I guess I realised, well, I mean, we can go on from there as well at that particular camp. I guess I began to start realising that I was kind of alone, you know, with my friendly God that I believed in. I began to realise that, yeah, I was alone. And I guess the possibility that I was wrong about God was becoming real. Maybe God wasn't as nice as what I thought he always was, or that he'd always been to me. Yeah, so I remember this older supervisor guy. I remember, yeah, so I'd been arguing with my friend Steve and this other guy, and they were like, you don't believe in hell? What are you talking about? Everyone believes in hell. And I remember somehow they must have told the supervisor guy, and he came in and asked me if that was true. And I said, yeah, I don't believe in hell. I mean, my mother didn't believe in hell, so I kind of stood my ground, you know. And I remember it was like disbelief. All these people couldn't believe, you know. I guess they couldn't believe that anyone would go against what was in the Bible, I suppose, you know. I guess all those kids just had it drilled into them, and I hadn't because of my mother, I suppose. And yeah, so they were quite in a state of disbelief that I didn't believe in hell, and they were determined, you know. They were quite determined. This supervisor guy, and I remember him going away, and I don't know if he brought someone back or he talked to someone. Something happened, but he came back to the room, the dormitory, where I was alone by that stage, I think. You know, I'd been shunned because of my disbelief in hell. And I was alone on the top bunk. And they came in and they were like, you know, we've spoken to such and such. Or it could have been that he'd brought someone into the room. I can't remember precisely. But yeah, they were saying, look, we've spoken to such and such, the elder, you know, one of the adult leaders. This is how it was. This is how it happened. This is why we have to believe in hell. And then he explained about, I remember his explanation went along the lines of, there were, you know, a certain number of angels in heaven with God, and one of them was a bad angel, and he got kicked out of heaven. So he created hell, you know. And whenever you disobey God, or if you don't love God, then he turns his back on you. He either turns his back on you or he chucks you out into this place that this other angel has created. That was more or less the explanation, that hell was, and the devil was this angel that had been kicked out of heaven. I think that's in the Bible. I'm not sure. I'm not really much of an expert on the Bible, but I think that's supposedly the origins of hell and the devil. So yeah, these guys were like, this guy was like determined, and all I did was just sat on the bed and refused to talk to them. And they were like, you don't want to talk? And I just said nothing. I just stayed on the top bunk and didn't even talk to them. And these were like young adults, like talking to me. So yeah, that was kind of a major event that happened in my path of coming to terms with the religion of Christianity and the parts of the religion that weren't particularly comfortable, that I wasn't particularly comfortable with. For example, the possibility of going to hell.
Shun the non-believer! Shun!